my question was is uh what do the three panelists or anyone else that has anything else to add to this, what do y'all think about recalls in addition to citizen referendums and citizen initiatives?
I- I'll start and say that if I had my dream, and because I said I was a Swiss citizen, and when you, Neil, you talked about the Switzerland being one of the few countries that approaches something that resembles real democracy, I would love that the Votes app on a periodic basis, and let the voter decide or let the community decide, receives a ballot. And on that ballot are a bunch of questions. And I, the citizen, get asked questions before the representative votes.
Sorry, can you clarify yourself there a bit, Philip? I just wondered, do you mean you, the citizens, the constituents vote first and that influences how the representative votes, or?
It could dictate, depending on the rules that we, the community, decide to establish. But I would like to get to the point that we truly get to a true democracy, like in Switzerland, where a change to the law is not done by some representative who's going to lunch with some lobbyist, but is done by me, the people. And I would suggest we, the people, being the preamble to our Constitution, kind of wanted to take us there. But the reality is you need a representative body. Even Switzerland recognizes you need a representative body because it's a big problem to manage. And I wouldn't want to be sitting there having to vote on should we send missiles to Ukraine. I'd rather my representative body do that. But I'd sure as hell like to be able to participate in should we have a $757 billion defense budget.
Okay, great, interesting. Now, Kadri, you guys basically do like kind of like proposals and initiatives, so kind of like citizen initiated proposals that then go to Parliament. So can you explain exactly how that works, especially what happens when they get to Parliament? Because as I understood it, you had a system, people can go online, they can sign a petition online, and then that goes to the Parliament. What happens at that point? Like, is there a debate in Parliament, or is there a referendum, or how does that work?
Yeah. It's written in a law that the people who are like representatives of the ones who put their signatures, they have a right to participate in a discussion, which there is a certain timeline where a parliamentary committee has to make invite the people over, and then they will have this discussion around the same table. The people who come there, they explain what they are concerns, what are their they see what the possible solutions may be. And then actually also we have in Parliament, there is written in law 6 possible solutions what committee can decide. One thing is that they change some law or regulation. When it falls out of their scope, then they can direct it to some ministry to research it more. They can make they can make send it to the whole Parliament, like the full house hearing for this topic. So there are like different options how this can be solved. And it depends from the topic how then the parliamentary committee decides to proceed with this.
Great, thanks. Tim, did you want to jump in on that one, or?
Sure. The thing that Philip said that really resonated with me was there's certain decisions that, like, I as a citizen want to have my vote counted in and my voice in, and there's other ones that I want my government to make. I thought that was a really great point. But as we think about both of those different types of decisions, I think the area that civil space that we're focusing on is like well before the kind of end game of a plebiscite or a referendum, or what was the other one, a recall. I think about our focus is on what are the smaller interactions on issues that would probably create a healthier kind of discourse and transparent and collaborative, even co-design government process. That, not saying that there's always necessarily some sort of negative reason or outcome that would come about a referendum. I think it's a trigger word in Canada because we had the referendum on Quebec separating back when I was a teenager from the country. So there's some negativity attached to it, but I do believe in this idea of like there's certain places where it's really important to provide citizens with decision-making power. Like participatory budgeting is a really fantastic example of places where we can even kind of incrementally experiment with giving more and more decision-making power to citizens in certain areas and test and see how that goes and then iterate that process over time. It's not like an all or nothing thing, right? You can give bits and pieces of decision-making power. And I think that's really powerful and great, but where civil space focuses is actually far before that. And that essentially it's in this place of saying, well, you know what, citizens, they need to be able to speak into, their city or their state or province or region issues much earlier on. And so then instead of wanting to, boot a province out or recall a politician, there's actually been this collaborative approach to things from the get-go. And it can be as simple as like understanding key priorities, key concerns, allowing citizens to post and having other citizens interact with that feedback, so you start understanding where there's momentum and consensus and ideas. And like that's where we've like really tried to focus. Is it's almost that like early prevention medicine. Like we have a great story from a Louisiana-based government, and they actually had a big challenge where they had a bond vote go sour. Like it was voted negative, like no. I think it had to do with a police station redevelopment, and the reason in kind of the post-mortem was because they hadn't gone out and done that type of like community engagement, understanding key priorities, revising and showing the public where revisions had been made to policy and approach because of what they've heard. And so whether it's a solution like Cadres or whether it's a solution like civil space, depending on where you're at in the process, that idea of before it gets to that, kind of like end game, big picture, in or out kind of decision making, or even like citizens making a final call on this piece, well, where can we get more creative earlier in the process, factor in more understanding of like the actual issues facing diverse groups of citizens, and hopefully factor that into the policy so it has a chance to meet broader need. And instead of then it having to be a this way or that way or yes or no, and only some of the, the population is going to be really happy with it, can we do a better job at engaging our communities early in like qualitative, quantitative sense? And so, yeah, I think all the parts are important in the process. And that's the one that we see that we can target and make a difference in.
So let me give you an example of, I think, the first question that came into the conversation, which is how do we engage and support the person who doesn't take that much interest? And if we talk to that person, our thought is if we reduce the amount of time you waste standing in line and going through the process, and we think about big cities, and I'm a New York, London, Brussels person who's had to deal with large size communities. You're sitting there going, if I can do that from the comfort of my home, and Matt, please stop rocking. I'm getting seasick. If I could do that from the comfort of my home, I have my research tools in front of me. And I can take advantage of those research tools while I have the back in front of me, and I can process the work. So that's the answer, which is let their time